Tina, as she likes to be called, is gregarious. She is a wonderful woman of God, but she's down to earth, and I like that a lot. So we were sitting at breakfast and we began to talk, and she said that she had God had talked to her about starting a book about forgiveness. And so as we talk, I give them a little bit of a snippet about my life and how forgiveness has brought me from there to here. And she said, you really need to be a part of this book. So I came back home and I began to write. And I can tell you, and I know my pastor knows, writing isn't easy. People think you just sit down and write, but that's not the case. It takes a lot, and you gotta focus, and you cannot procrastinate. We had a deadline, and we had a number of words that we were captured. You know, we couldn't go beyond a certain number of words. So, okay, that was the most difficult part, to edit yourself. So, I got there, and I did. And because of that, I became a part of the second anthology. I Live to Tell It. It is Dr. Biddy's form of talking about life. And this one, my story, his testimony, God's testimony, the power of forgiveness. In this book, my chapter is chapter 5. But the book is more than me. It talks about forgiveness, and especially forgiveness of yourself. That's one of the hardest things to do, is to forgive yourself. Because we do things over a lifetime that we regret. And because you regret, it's hard to forget. It's hard to forgive yourself. But my story had to do with forgiveness on another level. I began writing about something that really changed my life. And I wrote from the perspective of my 11-year-old self. So I'm going to read a portion of that chapter. Growing up in a family of 9, mom, dad, and 7 children, was dynamic, loud, and most of all, loving. My mother was a small lady. She longed for other siblings, so when she had 7 kids, she was in her element. My dad, on the other hand, was a large and powerful man. He demanded respect from his own children and the neighbors' children as well. He ruled his household with an iron fist, but doted on me. I was his first girl child. And after me came another boy and 2 other girls. So I had 3 older brothers, me, and then the others. I was right in the middle. He'd take me everywhere to show me off. I felt so special as the big sister, or big sis for short, and my family still calls me that. Puberty interceded in my life, and at 11, my menstrual cycle began. That memorable day found me at home from school and sitting in the living room. I was confused when I saw my dad coming down the stairs with a great big army green footlocker and a duffel bag. He explained to me that he was taking his clothes to the cleaners, even at 11 years old. I knew that statement didn't make much sense. That was the last time I saw him or heard from him. From that day on, our family's life changed dramatically. Our stay-at-home mom had to find a job to support her family, even though she did not have a high school education. Our grandparents had to move in with us to help pay the bills. We had to go on welfare. first time we realized we were poor. My mom found work as a domestic, and because the adults had to work to support our growing family, I was called upon to fill the role of pseudo-mother. I cooked, helped my siblings with their homework, ensured that the house was kept in order, laundered and ironed our clothes, and went grocery shopping with my mom once a month. Ripping the food stamps from the multicolored booklets signaled to everybody that we were dirt poor. Nowadays, they have a little card, so it's not so obvious that you're poor. But back then, when you took out the orange and green and brown and yellow booklets, like you have Monopoly money, everybody knew that you were poor. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. My mom wakes me up. You must go to the rescue mission. And sometimes to the St. Vincent de Paul secondhand stores to get the best shoes and clothes that fit our growing family before the other shoppers arrive. Once a month, this early rising was so we could get to the laundry to get the best washers all in a row and the hottest dryers. The year before my dad left his family, I watched as my mother fought for her life because of uterine cancer. Back then, the treatment was as bad as the sickness. The radioactive pack that the doctors placed in her womb meant that every day, my grandmother and I had to administer the 21 bottles of prescription medications that lined her dresser. I watched as she lost her hair, weight, and speak voice as the disease and cure ravaged her petite body. She later told me that she had turned her face to the wall and pleaded with God, as Hezekiah did in Isaiah chapter 38, verses 2 through 6, to let her live to see her 2-year-old baby girl graduating from high school. With God's blessing, my mom not only lived to see her baby girl graduate from high school, but attend college, get married, and become a mother herself. To her credit, her mom never spoke about her dad's leaving, nor other circumstances that led to it. You know, we didn't ask about it because kids had to stay at a kid's place. You didn't get into grown-ups issues. She went about caring for her household, and as for me, I began to resent the man that was our father. I could not enjoy the things that other young ladies could because my mom and grandmother worked to put food on our table, clothes on our backs, shoes on our feet, and a roof over our head. There were times that the gas and or electricity was turned on. We had to borrow food from our neighbors or get food on credit from the corner grocery store. But each Christmas, each child had a new toy, a new coat, shoes and an outfit, and a shoebox filled with a tangerine, peppermint stick, and mixed nuts. You know, when I was in school, it was easy for me. I loved to read, and I loved to watch the old movies. That was my form of escape. What I'm telling you now is not in this book. It's just an add-on. But I can always remember that my dad told me that I was smart. And that's important to tell your children positive things in their life, because those things they carry throughout their adulthood. But my counselor told me to come to her office. Now, back in the day, when you were called to the counselor's office, something was wrong. But for me, I ain't do nothing wrong, so I wanted to know why she wanted to see me. When I went in, she looked at my grades and asked me why I wasn't in college prep courses, and I told her, I'm not going to college, I gotta work to support my family. And she told me, you could do better by going to college because you can earn more to support your family. So the next semester, I found myself in college prep courses that were easy to do. So I did get to go to college. I got hooked up with a counselor or an outside person that helped me, a community activist, and he got me a scholarship to his college, Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. I went for my 4 years. I graduated magna cum laude.
No.
But that was pretty good for a 16-year-old.
Get out. Get her.
And my daughter, Lauren, went to school, college at 16 as well. I came here, I was married, I have my daughter Lauren, but sometimes things don't always work out. I found myself divorced, away from home, and with a little girl I had to raise. So, I'm sitting at work, minding my own business. I'm having my lunch, reading a book, and this guy comes up, and he says, do you know who I am? And I'm like, no, shut up. He said, my name is James Allen, and it looks like you have problems, so let me tell you about my problems. Now, I don't know this guy, okay, but he's telling me all this stuff. So, we became friends. And when he was telling me about his life, he graduated from high school at 16. His grandmother put him out. And for that last year of school, he had to live in the train station, bus station, and the movies because there was nowhere else for him to go. So we became close friends, and after a while, we became more than that. And I got to marry this man, and my yes came from the fact that he was a man of God. Other than that, I'm still single. When I got home, I went to California to see my uncle. He lived in Compton. And while there with my uncle and I, his wife told me, your father can see you from my backyard. And he could come over and talk to you if he wanted to, but he didn't. Came back home, a couple of days later, I got a phone call, 2 o'clock in the morning. Now you know, when somebody calls you like that, something's wrong. So I answered the phone, and I could hear the voice that I recognized. It was my dad. I was 28 years old then. So I was from 11 to 28. And he asked me, what the hell do you want? I don't have anything for you. I couldn't believe the arrogance. No hello, no how you doing, no I'm sorry it took so long for me to contact you, nothing. As he continued in that vein, the Holy Spirit said to me, bless them that curse you, and pray for them that despitefully use you. Be ye therefore merciful as your Father also is merciful. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive not, and ye shall not be forgiven. I figured if my mother couldn't forgive him, so could I. And from that point on, I fell asleep, never gave it a second thought. But there's an epilogue to my story. I found out that I have a half-sister. I didn't know anything about her until after my baby sister graduated from high school. So while we were there on this part of town, he was over there on that part of town and sired another girl. Well, she called me one day and said that he wanted to talk to me. okay. So he called. When I talked to him, he told me he wanted to tell me his side of the story. And he began to talk and talk and talk. But he began his discussion with me by calling my mother and my grandmother out of their names, calling them whores. Did you know your mother was a whore? What kind of question is that to ask somebody? And he said, we made a pact. If your mother died before me, I was to tell your kids the truth, and vice versa. What was the truth? His side of the story? You left. You left us. You abandoned your family. What side of the story do you have to tell me? His answer? I wanted to live my life, so I did. I'm not looking for forgiveness, not even from you. Arrogance. The arrogance was just palpable. But that's okay. Unforgiveness is a heavy burden. But Jesus said that we should come to him because his burden is light. You are forgiven because our God first forgave us. My burden of forgiveness has been lifted. But the question remains, how can you be a daughter to a stranger? 11, 28, and 68. Those are the 3 times. But to date, I have never seen him. The last time I saw him was coming down those stairs with that Foot Locker and a duffel bag full of his belongings. I don't miss him, but I think at this point, and he's 91, he misses what he left, even though he will not say it. I sent him a Father's Day card. Why not? He is my earthly father. One day, I got a message in my text messages, and I didn't recognize the phone number at first. What it was a picture of him he had taken of himself, and he was wiping tears. He never said anything, but he was wiping tears. And I know that somewhere deep down inside, that arrogance, there was caring. At least that's what I believe. But today, you find many kids that are missing their dads. It takes a mother and a father to raise a child. And I know that some of the kids that come right here to this church don't have a father, don't know what that's like. And so our Heavenly Father said that he would with your mother and your father if they forsake you. And that's the message I think that this book and this chapter of mine talks about. You have a father. You may not see him, but he's there and he's caring for you. So thank you guys for buying this, because that's a little bit of my story. But there are other stories in here, and you'll see yourself or your niece or your good friend in the pages here, because it talks about a lot of things. One of the authors revealed that she was raped. She had never told anybody that. And so it's a release for some of us. Forgiveness is hard to do, but we are called as Christians to do just that, to forgive. Thank you guys.